What happens when a woman known for grace, restraint, and quiet strength finally reaches her limit? Live on television, under blinding studio lights, with a table of powerful voices watching her every move. What happens when Daisy Ridley, the face of a generation's most beloved sci-fi heroine, sits across from Whoopi Goldberg on The View and refuses to stay silent anymore? Before we go any further, if you love cinematic celebrity stories, intense on-air clashes, and moments that feel too real to be scripted, hit subscribe right now and join Celeb Plus Tales. Like this video, comment your thoughts, and stay with us as we dive deep into the moments the cameras could never forget. The applause fades slowly, echoing across the studio like a held breath finally released. Daisy Ridley smiles as she takes her seat, posture straight, hands folded neatly in her lap. She looks calm, polished, the way audiences expect her to look. The way she's been trained to look since the day Star Wars turned her life inside out. But behind her eyes, something flickers. The hosts greet her warmly. Compliments fly, her talent, her elegance, her resilience in a franchise that devoured expectations whole. Daisy nods, laughs softly, thanks them. She's done this 100 times. She knows the rhythm. Praise first. Comfort. Safety. Whoopi Goldberg watches closely, chin slightly raised, expression unreadable. The conversation begins where it always does. Career updates, upcoming projects, the evolution of her craft. Daisy speaks about choosing smaller films now, about wanting stories with heart, stories that don't come with armies of online critics attached. The audience chuckles knowingly. They remember. Everyone does. Then Whoopi leans forward. So, she says, voice smooth but deliberate, you've talked before about feeling unsupported during those years. About criticism. About pressure. Do you think that comes with the territory when you accept a role that big? The air shifts. Daisy's smile doesn't vanish, but it stiffens. A muscle tightens in her jaw. She answers carefully. I think pressure is part of any job. But there's a difference between critique and erasure. A few audience members murmur. Someone claps once, then stops. Whoopi nods, but presses. Some people would say the backlash wasn't personal. That it was about the writing, the story. Not you. Daisy inhales. Slowly, deliberately. I was the face people attacked, she says. Calm. Measured. So it didn't feel theoretical to me. The camera cuts to a close-up. You can see it now, the tension she's been holding back, stacked carefully behind professionalism and politeness. Another host tries to lighten the moment, but Whoopi doesn't let go. But do you ever feel like actors blame audiences for having opinions? That's when Daisy's hands unclasp. She looks down for a brief second, then back up. Do you ever feel, she asks quietly, that women are expected to absorb opinions instead of responding to them? The audience reacts instantly, an audible "oh" rippling through the rows. Whoopi's eyes narrow slightly. Not angry. Alert. I think everyone in the public eye has too, Whoopi replies. Men and women. Daisy nods, but there's steel in her voice now. With respect, that hasn't been my experience. The studio feels tighter. Warmer. Producers shift behind the cameras. Daisy continues, words flowing faster, no longer filtered. When men are unhappy with a story, they are critics. When women are unhappy, we're ungrateful. When men push back, they are honest. When women do it, we're emotional. Applause breaks out, this time louder, less hesitant. Whoopi folds her hands together. So what? You're saying audiences shouldn't talk back? No, Daisy says immediately. I'm saying I shouldn't be punished for existing inside a conversation I didn't create. Silence drops like a curtain. Daisy's voice trembles just slightly now, but she doesn't stop. I was told to smile more, to explain less, to be grateful, to not rock the boat. And every time I spoke honestly, it became a headline about how I couldn't handle criticism. She laughs once, short, incredulous. Do you know how exhausting that is? The audience is fully with her now. You can feel it. Heads nodding. Faces intent. Whoopi responds, firmer. But Daisy, public discourse isn't going away. You can't control it. I know, Daisy says, eyes shining. But I can control whether I pretend it doesn't hurt. The words hang there, heavy. For the first time, Whoopi seems taken aback. She pauses. That pause stretches. And what does exploding look like to you? Whoopi asks finally. Because from where I'm sitting, you're still being very controlled. Daisy exhales sharply. This, she says. This is controlled. What you never see is how much restraint it takes not to scream when your worth is debated like a theme. A gasp escapes someone in the front row. Daisy's composure cracks, not into chaos, but into truth. Her voice grows stronger, clearer. I was 23. New. Excited. Terrified. And suddenly millions of people decided what I represented. Not who I was. What I symbolized. She looks directly at Whoopi now. And when I tried to say it was too much, I was told that strength meant silence. Whoopi shifts in her seat. I don't think silence is strength. Then why, Daisy asks softly, is it always the advice given to women like me? The room goes still. No applause. No murmurs. Just listening. One host glances nervously toward the producer's desk. This isn't going according to plan. This isn't promo. Daisy continues, voice steadier now, almost relieved. I loved that role. I loved the fans who loved it. But I won't pretend the rest didn't happen. And I won't apologize for saying it out loud anymore. A wave of applause crashes through the studio, full, unrestrained. Whoopi waits for it to die down. When she speaks again, her tone is measured, careful. I respect that. But you have to understand, when you speak like this, people will push back. Daisy nods. I'm not afraid of pushback anymore. That lands harder than anything she's said so far. The applause fades. The tension doesn't. For a moment, Daisy looks almost surprised by herself, as if she hadn't planned to go this far, to open this door. But once opened, it won't close. The host attempts to redirect the conversation, but the energy is altered. Everyone knows it. The audience isn't here for movie talk now. They are witnessing a reckoning. Daisy smiles again, but it's different this time. Not polite. Not practiced. Real. And as the cameras keep rolling, one thing becomes clear. This wasn't a meltdown. It was a release. And the fallout from what just happened on The View is only beginning, because once the words are out, the world will decide what to do with them next. The red light over the camera clicks off, but the tension doesn't leave with it. If anything, it thickens, like smoke trapped in a sealed room. Daisy remains seated as the show slips into a commercial break. The applause sign goes dark. The audience buzzes in hushed tones, whispers bouncing from row to row. Some people stare at her with admiration, others with shock. A few look toward Whoopi, waiting to see who will move first. Whoopi adjusts the papers in front of her, slow and deliberate. Years of live television have taught her one thing above all else: never let them see you rattled. She doesn't look at Daisy right away. Not yet. A producer's voice crackles faintly through an earpiece somewhere off camera. The co-hosts lean inward, murmuring. One of them reaches toward Daisy, touching her arm lightly, offering a quiet, "You okay?" Daisy nods, but her chest rises and falls faster than before. She hadn't planned to say that much. She can feel it now, the aftershock of honesty. The adrenaline. The fear that creeps in after you finally say the thing you've been swallowing for years and realize you can't take it back. Whoopi finally turns toward her. Up close, her expression is different from what the audience saw on air. Less confrontational. More searching. You all right? Whoopi asks, low enough that only the table hears. Daisy swallows. Yeah, she says. Then, after a beat, I think I needed to say it. Whoopi nods once. Live TV has a way of pulling things out of people. Daisy lets out a breath that's almost a laugh. Tell me about it. The countdown clock ticks silently toward 0. 30 seconds. 20. A producer steps closer, eyes wide, voice urgent but controlled. We're coming back hot. Let's try to steer it. Whoopi lifts a hand. I got it. The producer hesitates, then backs away. 10 seconds. Daisy straightens in her chair, smoothing the fabric of her dress. She can feel her pulse in her throat. Somewhere in the audience, a phone vibrates. Somewhere else, a clip is already being uploaded, trimmed, captioned, sent into the digital bloodstream. 3, 2, 1. The lights blaze back to life. We're back, one of the hosts announces brightly, a little too brightly. And we're having a very honest conversation this morning. Polite laughter ripples through the audience, but it doesn't stick. Whoopi turns to Daisy, fully now. You know, she says, voice calm but carrying weight. People at home are going to hear what you said and think you're angry. Daisy meets her gaze. I am. The word lands clean. No apology. No softening. A murmur spreads across the room. But anger doesn't mean I'm wrong, Daisy continues. It means I've been quiet for too long. Whoopi tilts her head. Anger can be powerful. It can also blur the message. Only if people are more comfortable with calm than truth, Daisy replies. The audience reacts instantly, applause, louder now, more confident. One of the co-hosts tries to interject, smiling nervously. I think what Daisy's saying resonates with a lot of people. It does, Whoopi says, cutting in, though her tone isn't sharp. But resonance doesn't equal accountability. Daisy's brow furrows. Accountability for what? For the impact of your words, Whoopi says. When you speak, people listen. That comes with responsibility. Daisy nods slowly. I agree. That's why I'm being careful to speak from my experience, not over anyone else's. But you're still shaping a narrative, Whoopi presses. About fandoms. About audiences. About criticism. Daisy leans forward, mirroring Whoopi's posture earlier. Then let me be clear. I'm not condemning fans. I'm condemning cruelty that hides behind opinion. The audience breaks into applause again, some people standing briefly before sitting back down. Whoopi watches them, then looks back at Daisy. You know there are people who will say this sounds like resentment. Daisy smiles faintly. I've been called worse for saying less. A ripple of laughter moves through the room, easing the tension for half a second before it tightens again. Whoopi exhales, then speaks more personally now. When I came up, you didn't talk back. You took the hits. You kept moving. Daisy listens carefully. And do you think that made it easier, or just quieter? The question hangs there. Whoopi doesn't answer immediately. The silence stretches long enough that the audience stops breathing with it. Finally, Whoopi nods once. It made it survivable. Daisy's voice softens. I don't want to just survive. That's when something shifts, not explosively, but deeply. The clash gives way to something heavier. Generational. Philosophical. Two women shaped by different eras of public scrutiny, staring at each other across a glossy table. One learned to endure. The other is refusing to. The co-hosts sense it too. One of them leans in. Isn't it possible, she says carefully, that both things can be true? Daisy turns to her. Yes, but only if we stop telling women that endurance is the same as strength. The audience erupts, full applause now, no hesitation. Whoopi watches the crowd, then Daisy. Her expression is unreadable, but there's no hostility in it anymore. Just consideration. And what do you want people to do with that? Whoopi asks. Daisy takes a breath. This time, it's steady. Listen, even if they disagree. Especially then. The host nods. That's fair. The show moves on, awkwardly, inevitably. They talk about Daisy's upcoming film again, about storytelling, about choosing roles with intention. Daisy answers professionally, but the energy never fully resets. Every word feels layered now, charged with what came before. As the segment winds down, the applause returns, stronger than it was at the beginning of the show. Not polite, purposeful. Daisy stands to leave. Whoopi stands too. For a split second, it looks like they might simply nod and move on. But Whoopi steps forward and pulls Daisy into a brief, firm hug. The audience gasps, then applauds. Whoopi speaks quietly into Daisy's ear. Don't let them twist it. Daisy nods, eyes shining. I won't. The cameras catch just enough of it to spark speculation, to feed 1,000 interpretations. As Daisy walks offstage, her legs feel weak, but her spine feels straight. She disappears behind the curtain, into a hallway buzzing with staff, producers, assistants already checking phones. A publicist rushes toward her. Your name is trending, she says, half alarmed, half impressed. Daisy lets out a shaky laugh. Already. Everywhere. Behind her, the show continues. But the moment has escaped the studio. It's out there now, clipped, captioned, debated. And as Daisy steps into the quiet of the green room, phone vibrating non-stop in her bag, one thought settles in her chest with startling clarity. There's no going back to who she was this morning. Because whatever people decide about what just happened on The View, one thing is certain. The conversation has only just begun. The green room door closes behind Daisy with a soft click, muting the controlled chaos of the studio, but not the noise following her. Her phone buzzes again. And again. And again. The vibration feels louder than the applause ever did. She doesn't look at it yet. Instead, she sinks into the couch, hands pressed flat against her knees, grounding herself. Her reflection stares back from a darkened TV screen mounted on the wall, eyes bright, jaw set, a woman who looks steadier than she feels. The release has passed. Now comes the reckoning. A production assistant hovers near the door, pretending to organize cue cards while clearly listening. Daisy closes her eyes for a second. She thinks of the first time she walked onto a soundstage as Ray, unknown, hopeful, terrified. She thinks of interviews where she smiled through discomfort, of panels where her voice was drowned out by louder opinions. She thinks of all the times she chose silence because it felt safer. Not today. Her phone buzzes again. She exhales and finally picks it up. Messages flood the screen. Friends. Fellow actors. Strangers. Thank you for saying that. I felt that in my bones. You were brave. Why couldn't you just be grateful? The polarity hits her all at once, love and fury colliding in the palm of her hand. Her publicist enters without knocking, tablet already glowing. Okay, she says, voice brisk but eyes alert. We're everywhere. Daisy looks up. Good or bad? The publicist hesitates. Both. She sits beside Daisy, scrolling. Clips from the show loop endlessly. Daisy leaning forward. Daisy saying I'm angry. Daisy refusing to apologize. Headlines are being written in real time, each one sharper than the last. Daisy Ridley snaps on live TV. Daisy Ridley calls out fans on The View. Daisy Ridley finally says what Hollywood won't. They are framing it as an explosion, the publicist says carefully. Daisy lets out a humorless laugh. Of course they are. Back in the studio, the show has ended, but the hosts are still there, mics removed, tension lingering like humidity. Whoopi remains seated longer than the others, staring at the empty chair Daisy occupied moments ago. One of the co-hosts breaks the silence. That got intense. Whoopi nods slowly. Yeah. You think we pushed too hard? Whoopi doesn't answer right away. She gathers her things, thoughtful. No, she finally says. I think we touched a nerve that was already exposed. Another host frowns. Twitter's going to tear this apart. Whoopi shrugs. Twitter always does. But there's something else in her expression, something unsettled. Not defensive. Reflective. She's replaying Daisy's words in her head. I don't want to just survive. Cut to phones lighting up across the world. Clips are stitched with dramatic music. Comment sections erupt like open flames. People choose sides instantly, violently, passionately. She disrespected Whoopi. She spoke the truth. She's too sensitive. She's finally honest. Within an hour, Daisy's name dominates trending lists across continents. In the green room, Daisy scrolls quietly now, absorbing it all. Each comment feels like a small weight, some lifting her, others pressing down. Her publicist watches her carefully. You don't have to read this. I do, Daisy says softly. This is the conversation I walked into. Another knock. This time it's a producer from The View. He smiles politely, professionally. Whoopi wanted me to check in. Make sure you're okay. Daisy looks up, surprised. Tell her I'm fine. He nods, hesitates. She respects what you did, even if she didn't agree with all of it. Daisy considers that. That means more than agreement. When he leaves, Daisy stands and walks to the mirror. She studies herself, not the star, not the symbol, just the woman who chose to speak. Her phone rings. A name flashes on the screen. A fellow actress, one who vanished from blockbusters years ago after relentless online harassment. Daisy answers. I watched, the voice says immediately. Emotional. I wish I'd had your courage. Daisy closes her eyes. I didn't feel brave. You were. The call ends, and Daisy feels something settle inside her, something like resolve. Elsewhere, news panels debate her tone. Was it appropriate? Was it emotional? Was it calculated? Men dissect her body language. Women recognize themselves in her words. Whoopi sits alone in her dressing room now, jacket draped over a chair, phone in her hand. She scrolls too. Slower, more carefully. She stops on a clip, not the confrontation, but the quieter moment afterward. Daisy saying, I can control whether I pretend it doesn't hurt. Whoopi exhales through her nose. She records a short voice memo, more to herself than anyone else. Times change, she mutters. And so does strength. Back in the green room, Daisy prepares to leave. She slips on her coat, takes one last look at the space where the emotional storm began. The assistant opens the door for her. The hallway buzzes again, cameras, whispers, urgency. But Daisy walks through it differently now. Head high, steps steady. Outside, the world waits, ready to praise her, punish her, misunderstand her. She steps into it anyway. Because whatever happens next, whatever headlines follow, whatever backlash builds, she has already crossed the point of no return. And the final wave hasn't hit yet. By the time night falls, the moment has grown teeth. Screens glow in dark rooms across the world. Phones, laptops, TVs replaying the same exchange from 100 different angles. Clips are slowed down, zoomed in, captioned in bold white text. Daisy leaning forward. Whoopi listening, unblinking. The word angry frozen mid-frame like an accusation. The audience reaction no longer belongs to the studio. It belongs to everyone. In one corner of the internet, Daisy is hailed as fearless. A woman who finally said what so many had swallowed. Think pieces bloom overnight, long threads, careful essays, personal confessions from women who recognize the exhaustion in her voice. In another corner, the knives come out. She's called ungrateful, fragile, too emotional for someone who had it all. The same arguments recycled, repackaged, hurled like stones. Daisy watches some of it from the quiet of her hotel room. The city hums outside the window, distant and indifferent. She sits cross-legged on the bed, scrolling slowly now, not compulsively. Selectively. She doesn't respond. She remembers something she once said years ago, that she didn't want to live her life based on fear of reaction. Tonight, those words feel heavier, more real. Her phone buzzes with a notification she doesn't expect. Whoopi Goldberg has posted. It's brief. No explanations. No defenses. Conversation matters. Listening matters more. That's it. The internet explodes again, this time in confusion. Some read it as support, others as dismissal. Analysts dissect punctuation like it's policy. Daisy reads it once, then again. She doesn't smile, but she exhales. Across town, in newsrooms and podcast studios, voices debate whether this moment will change anything. They argue about tone, about timing, about who won. But something quieter is happening too. Young women message Daisy privately, saying they spoke up at work that day, that they stopped apologizing mid-sentence, that they felt seen. That never trends. In the following days, interviews are requested, carefully worded, cautiously framed. Daisy declines most of them. She releases a short statement instead. No drama. No clarifications. I spoke from my experience. I stand by it. That's all. The cycle moves on, as it always does. Another headline. Another outrage. Another distraction. But the clip doesn't disappear. It lives on, resurfacing whenever the conversation circles back to women, visibility, and the price of honesty. And on The View, weeks later, the panel discusses another topic. Another guest. Another debate. But there's a moment, blink and you miss it, when Whoopi pauses mid-sentence, chooses a word more carefully, lets someone finish. It's small, but it's different. As for Daisy, she returns to her work quieter, steadier. She's no longer trying to be understood by everyone. She's choosing herself more often. And that, somehow, feels louder than any explosion. Because what really happened that day wasn't a meltdown. It was a line being drawn. And now, it's your turn. Did Daisy Ridley cross a line, or finally reclaim her voice? Was this a clash, a reckoning, or a moment we weren't ready for? Tell us what you think in the comments below. Share your perspective, because this conversation doesn't end when the camera's cut. And if you want more explosive, emotional, behind-the-scenes stories like this, subscribe to Celeb Plus Tales right now. Like the video, join the discussion, and stay with us, because the moments that change everything rarely come with warnings.